Jason Aaron Kuder, and Ed McGuinness bring Heroes Reborn into its final chapter as the Squadron Supreme begin to figure out something isn't right with their world or reality, and it has something to do with the mysterious Avengers some of the team have encountered over the last week. Jason Aaron kinda drops his DC pastiche a little bit here and reverts back to some more traditional Marvel formats as all of the stories from the previous 6 issues begin to converge, and we get to see some famous Marvel events like Civil War and Dark Avengers and how they transpired in this universe run by the Devil and Phil Coulson. The DC slant is still there, and I'm glad it is because I've really enjoyed it over the couple of issues we've got of it, and we get to see stuff like a Batman and Superman battling and a play on the death of Superman. But it's much more reserved here compared to the previous issues, and rightly so, since the book is coming to an end and the event is reaching its conclusion. So the Avengers side of the plot kinda needs to take over a little bit more, which is really quite cool to see. Aaron does a great job at bringing all of these things we saw in the previous 6 issues and tying them all together nicely as the Squadron begin to sort of piece it all together and realize they've been kind of battling the same foes this whole time. The backup with Coulson, however, holds the most plot and weight, I think. Much like the last few issues, we see Coulson intending on battling the Avengers again on his own and rewriting them out of history again with a cosmic cube, or in this case a pandemonium cube. I like this change of Coulson as a villain, and an actual villain as well, like not him being manipulated or anything. He's actually there doing it for himself, or so he thinks. He is being manipulated by the Devil a little bit, but he wants to be evil, and I think it's a great way to utilize the character, especially now they don't have to worry about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and doing sort of multimedia synergy and making him sort of a hero sort of character as well. Aaron Kuder and Ed McGuinness both finish up the arcs really well here, and both are no stranger to Marvel or Avengers, with Aaron giving us some really awesome alternate renditions of classic Marvel event stories and great looking action, while Ed continues his backups, this time taking a more darker approach in every way possible, including a lovely warmer shadow-filled approach to the artwork and colours he used in this to help sell Coulson's sinister preparations with Mephisto. Heroes Reborn issue 7 was a fantastic closer to the Heroes Reborn universe, getting us perfectly primed for the big Heroes Return issue next week, as well as giving us one final fun look at this alternate reality based on the DC Comics. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Heroes Reborn issue 7 heads years into the past where Hyperion and Nighthawk battle in a civil war over the Hero Registration Act. Mark knows that the congressman doesn't usually push policies like this, but Nighthawk won't listen to the man from another planet lecturing him on American diplomacy. Hyperion knows that there is more to this than legislation, since while Kyle is the smartest, scariest man in every room, Power Princess still loves him, and Kyle needs to live with it, or he will die bitter and broken. Using his symbiote and the Eye of Agamotto, Nighthawk blasts the hero, who quickly smashes him in the face, knowing he stole the artifacts just to hurt him. But since he's an American history teacher, he can tell Nighthawk for a fact that in a civil war, both sides bleed. Hyperion smashes Nighthawk through a series of buildings and billboards before taking him into space to get rid of the symbiote in the sun. In the present, the Squadron meet, knowing that they have had their fair share of disagreements in the past, but as Power Princess says, they are all under attack by a group called the Avengers, something Dr. Spectrum, who has been to one side of the galaxy and the other, has never heard of. Blur thinks that this might be a Frank Castle thing, and he's avenging his family who were wiped out by the circus of crime, quickly speeding over to Frank's prison and punching him for a bit, but learning it's not him. Hyperion knows that something very strange is going on, not wanting to talk about his feelings, but Doc Samson told him he doesn't have to be the man of American might all the time. He tells the team of his troubling week fighting Bruce Banner, who while he was killing, said something, and it sent him to the Arctic, where he found remnants of something in the ice, something that had been frozen and forgotten. Zada doesn't think that he's making any sense, so Hyperion says that there is something wrong with the world and none of it makes sense to him. Blur mentions seeing something while racing Silver Witch at the Dread Dimension, but knows everything there is weird. Heroes know that Nighthawk is being conspicuously quiet, so Kyle asks where in the Arctic did Hyperion find this thing. Later on, Blur and Dr. Spectrum are sent to the Arctic to check the ice cave, finding a body was recently removed from there. But Blur thinks it was an alien, but Spectrum's prism doesn't detect any alien presence. But there is something off about the reading. The duo head back to base, having a race to see who's faster, as Hyperion meanwhile finds Rocket Raccoon's ship in orbit, blowing it up as he tells the team that there was no sign of the Starbrand child or anything about Avengers, and all he found on board was a talking weed that kept telling him his name, but he burned it away. Nighthawk meanwhile tells Zada Hyperion doesn't like the two of them being alone together, but Power Princess wants to keep it professional since they don't need more drama added to the mix. And besides, she knows it would never work between her and Kyle since he would be crushed like a sack of twigs by her. She wonders about Black Cat and what happened to her, but Nighthawk reminds her to keep it professional, showing her security footage of Ravencroft Asylum where Captain America and Blade freed Echo from her prison, citing that Echo is now carrying the Phoenix Force. Zada knows that Jean Grey is dead since she killed her herself and flew all 4 pieces of her to the corners of the universe. Nighthawk knows that dead isn't always dead, as years ago, Weapon X kills Hyperion for killing Jean Grey, using his magic-enhanced claws to stab the hero to death. Zada says that they will avenge her beloved, but Weapon X says that they'll be the ones doing the avenging, telling the gathered Alpha Flight to disassemble the bastards. In the present, Nighthawk and Dr. Spectrum search the space around Earth for energy readings that Spectrum found in the Arctic, knowing that there is something close to Hyperion's, something recorded once years before from samples of a meteorite smuggled out of the Congo by a mercenary working for Howard Stark. Nighthawk knows that those samples were lost at sea, as Spectrum wonders what's so special about some rocks, but Kyle knows it's not about them, it's about the people hiding it since they are hiding themselves, people who have just opened the doors maybe and finally given them a chance to find them. He tells Dr. Spectrum to scan all of Africa, as at Ravencroft Asylum, the Goblin is asked about Echo by Zada, whom he didn't care for since she was deaf and couldn't hear his laughter, and she was number 877 on his New Year's resolution list of maim and mutilating people. He wonders if Power Princess and Blur want to know where they rank, and Blur does, but Zada isn't interested in his games, demanding to know who helped Echo escape. Goblin can't tell them since something like that would get him a reputation of a snitch around the asylum and people would try and distance themselves from him, so he wouldn't be able to kill many people. Zada knows that he would have found someone like how he found Silver Witch, but Goldblum says that she killed herself by blowing a hex through her head at 1,000 miles an hour, and he knows all he ever did was talk to her in the darkness, just like he's doing to Zada now. Goblin wonders if Power Princess feels like killing herself yet, so she can join her beloved Utopians. As he continues to gloat, Zada smashes his stomach in, so hard that the ground cracks, killing the Goblin, as she wonders how Nighthawk let him live for so long, never understanding the need for the boys to have rogues galleries. Blur nervously says that team-ups usually consist of saying funny things while running really fast, but he guesses this is cool as well. Years ago, Nighthawk confronts Goblin, demanding to know what he's up to with a press conference he called. Goblin wants to be called Norman Osborn now, as he says that killing people one at a time is so tedious and time-consuming, but if he becomes the president, he could do it in droves, so he announces his run for the presidency by showing off the Dark Squadron, made up of Sentry, Moon Knight, Nova, Valkyrie, and the Ghost Runner. In the present, Dr. Spectrum and Blur watch as the big three argue at the top of the Washington Monument, with Dr. Spectrum saying that if they come out of this as a heathen thruple, he's joining the Squadron Sinister. Blur knows that they are arguing about if they clue Coulson in on what's happening and what they are going to do about it. Spectrum says that they are about to start a war, and it's what they do best, and he begrudgingly agreed to do this without White House approval, and given the international implications, he thought it was best if President Coulson had plausible deniability. Coulson, however, is listening, calling the man a little naive idiot as the heroes leave the area, knowing they need to find if the Avengers are real and what they are after. Blur wonders if life used to be simpler, and Spectrum says that it is simple now, since the evidence is right in front of them. The duo find themselves at the Fury Memorial, where Dr. Spectrum says without them, the world they get is one where presidents like Fury are gunned down around in the streets. He wonders if they should go back in time and grab a beer with Fury and maybe even win Vietnam for him, as Blur looks over the memorial, knowing that time travel doesn't always work out great. Years ago, in One Moment of Time in Hell, Blur tells Mary Jane Stewart, his wife, that he will find her again and that he will find a way to be with her, and he always does, and he's always right about these things. In the present day Africa, Dr. Spectrum finds the location of the energy, finding a giant empty grassland, and Hyperion can't pick up anything in his atomic vision. Blur knows that there is something there, something he cannot run through, and he can run through most things. Nighthawk arrives in his monster truck, telling the team that this is where all the trails from Echo and Blade and the Asgardian and the Starbrand lead. He tells Blur to hack into any hidden networks there, using his super speed to try out a few million password combos. Dr. Spectrum wonders who would hide themselves all these years with this tech as a cloaking shield begins falling around the area. Nighthawk says that people have searched for this site for centuries, welcoming the team to the lost land of Wakanda, as Captain America and the Avengers assemble in front of the squadron, saying that they will be taking back their reality now. Coulson, meanwhile, shares information on the Avengers with Thunderbolt Ross and J. Jonah Jameson, both who think that the Avengers are commies or public menaces, and the squadron will deal with it. Ross and Jameson get busy setting up meetings of the Joint Chiefs and drafting press conferences and press releases about how awful the country they are bombing is. Coulson, however, retrieves a gun from his desk, killing both men, making a call and getting a press release made up on the assassination of Ross and Jameson by Wakandan sleeper agents, wanting the press officer to make it a bit sappy. Mephisto appears, knowing that he has done the right thing, since the more people that say the A word, the more cracks begin to form in their reality. Coulson knows that this wasn't meant to happen and there wasn't meant to be any Avengers, wondering what he missed, but Mephisto knows that it's nothing that can't be erased again, like killing Captain America, wondering how that makes Phil feel. Coulson fires at the groaning Ross, killing him dead, as he says he never should have left Steve on ice and he must be getting sentimental. He asks about the squadron, and Mephisto says that he could always try and call them back, but he knows they won't listen, and he reminds Phil that this wasn't going to be easy, being that it's the devil's work. Coulson is reminded that if he helped him, the numbers would grow, but Mephisto meant his own numbers, but the council still won't commit and they don't trust him. Coulson knows they need to show that they can still deliver, bowing before the devil and saying that Mephisto makes dreams come true. The president knows that if he can't call the team back or bomb the country, then there is only one thing he can do, the same thing he did when he remade the world. He retrieves the Pandemonium Cube, knowing that he will need to do it himself.